Chapter 22. Fear and Purpose. Ghastly pale, Francis and Lily returned inside. Francis mumbled, "He's lost his mind." Sarah, equally distraught, followed them into the bunker. Maxine sat on the living room couch. She stared blankly, images of the assault flickering in her mind. She stayed like that for hours, trying to process her own actions. The sun lowered. Jacob entered. He rubbed the heel of his muddy boots on the welcome mat. His heavy footsteps thumped past Maxine. Taking a bottle of water by the sink, he washed the blood and dirt from his hands. He grabbed a hand towel and cleaned his palms. Resting his shoulder at the threshold of the doorway, he eyed Maxine.
"I thought you would have cleaned up the blood by now."
The baking soda had turned pink near the front door.
"The stains are set now,"
Jacob said. Maxine broke her eternal gaze. Her hollow eyes turned to him. "What are you doing?" Jacob stopped drying his hands.
"The bodies, you mean?"
Maxine said weakly. "Yeah?"
"Protecting us," Jacob replied. "The world's getting dangerous. I want it to know that I'm dangerous too."
"Have you thought about what this will do to Sarah?" Jacob glared.
"It'll keep her alive. It's dog eat dog. Whoever is the biggest and baddest survives. I don't plan on dying."
The conversation went quiet.
"What would you have me do with the bodies?"
Jacob asked with annoyance. Maxine opened her mouth, but no words came out. She finally said, "Not that." Jacob dried his hands.
"Time to grow up."
He headed to the closet and grabbed a broom and dustpan.
"You helpin' or not?"
Maxine scoffed and went down the ladder. She touched down at the bottom. Lily, Sarah, and Francis chatted quietly around the dinner table. When they saw Maxine, they shut up and kept their heads down. Maxine took a seat at the table. She slouched. "I know this looks bad."
"We're leaving,"
Francis said directly. Lily sniffed. Her lack of protest showed her approval. Maxine replied, "I understand how you're feeling, but—"
"No buts,"
Francis cut her off.
"That man is insane. He will kill us all. Lily and I are going to pack some food and leave first thing in the morning."
"What are you going to tell Jacob?" Maxine asked.
"Nothing,"
Francis said.
"And you better not either."
Maxine frowned. Francis said,
"Besides, he promised that if we let anyone into the house, he'd kill us, remember? Well, look at what happened. Now we're all dead."
Jacob was exaggerating. "The bunker is what he really cares about," Maxine returned. "I'm going too," Sarah injected. "Oh, no, you're not," Maxine said. "Francis and Lily will take care of me." "That's not happening," Maxine said.
"She can make her own decisions,"
Francis said. Maxine glared at him. "No, she can't." Sarah brooded. Maxine turned to the couple. "How are you going to raise your child out there? Huh? Have you ever thought of that?" "Nature will find a way," Lily said. "Don't be stupid," Maxine barked. "You're too malnourished to give birth, let alone take care of an infant." Lily boiled. "I'm the doctor here," Maxine said. "And I'll tell you this right now. If you leave, you will all die." The couple and Sarah stewed in bitterness. "Now stay put and grow the hell up," Maxine commanded. "This isn't a game anymore." That night, Jacob cooked them dinner. He brought them each out a bowl of chunky stew and vegetables. Leaving the hot pan in the middle of the table, Jacob took a seat and grunted. He put a folded napkin on his lip and scooped up a steamy spoonful. Sarah stirred her fork in her stew. Francis sat with his arms crossed. Lily never left her bedroom. Jacob cracked open a beer can and took a swig. A small line of suds covered his mustache. He wiped it with his clean sleeve.
"Lily sick?"
Francis didn't reply. Jacob seemed not to care. He ate another spoonful of stew. After he swallowed, he cleared his throat.
"I'm sure you remember the promise I made you."
Like a son called out by his father, Francis made himself small and avoided eye contact.
"How did they get inside?"
Jacob asked calmly. Maxine lowered her spoon. "It's been a long day for all of us. Maybe we should finish this talk tomorrow." Jacob said,
"I want Francis to answer."
Squirming, Francis said,
"We spotted them approaching and thought it would be best to hide." "Is that what you were commanded to do?"
Jacob asked.
"Look, man, we did what we thought was right,"
Francis replied. Jacob said,
"It was a weak move. Even a few warning shots would have turned them away. That was your job, Sarah."
The teenager went tense. Jacob said,
"Then again, I promised to be back before dark that night. Having failed on both of our fronts, I'd say we learn from our mistakes and let bygones be bygones."
Maxine sighed in relief. Francis didn't believe him. Sarah felt comfortable enough to start eating. With some of the tension deflated from the room, Jacob said,
"Lily's going to pop soon. You need to be alive and smart to take care of that baby, Francis. No more weakling attitudes and diets. I'm going to teach you to be a man, but I need you to be pliable for learning."
Francis mumbled,
"Can I take Lily her soup?"
Jacob excused him. After cleaning up after dinner, Jacob secured the bunker from inside, and they all went to bed. In the dark, Maxine and the rest lay in their beds, completely awake. The next morning, Maxine forced herself out of bed. Lily and the others were still sleeping. Good. She headed to the workout station in the main room of the bunker and spent 45 minutes doing crunches, push-ups, and curling barbells. She worked out furiously and didn't stop until her body ached. Afterward, she grabbed a few oatmeal packets and brown sugar and made herself breakfast. She took the dead woman's pistol and went to the upstairs balcony. She watched the swamp. Her heart cried for Ike and Owen. In her mind's eye, she imagined their return. In the distance, she saw a canoe. Maxine squinted, recognizing Jacob. He must have been scouting. The intruders' bodies were strung up in surrounding islands around his own, making a compass of sorts. Maxine returned inside. She browsed the books in Jacob's study. The blood-stained survival manual rested on the desk. Maxine's stomach churned. There had to be a better way of reclaiming the house. 5 people were dead thanks to her. Jacob showed no remorse. Maxine headed downstairs and cleaned. She adjusted furniture, swept, and did other remedial chores to occupy her mind. Jacob returned before noon, wearing an ugly scowl.
"There was someone out there."
Maxine stopped dusting. "Who?"
"I don't know, but I saw footprints at the entrance to the swamp."
"Are you sure they weren't from the intruders?"
"These were only a few hours old,"
Jacob remarked.
"They may have had a sixth member who was away when we attacked."
"Are you going after him?" Maxine asked.
"And leave the house unguarded? No thanks,"
Jacob replied. "So, what then?"
"We trust that our signposts will warn them not to approach,"
Jacob said.
"We'll shoot them if they get near. You'll help me keep guard."
Maxine agreed, wanting an excuse to be on the lookout for Ike, Owen, and Chase anyway.
"Where are the others?"
Jacob asked. "Still in the bunker."
"They don't like me very much,"
Jacob said. "Does that bother you?" Maxine asked.
"No. But it makes my life difficult,"
Jacob said.
"Tonight, I'll cook something fresh. That should raise morale."
The next 2 days were long and slow. Maxine stayed topside most of the time, taking frequent walks around the house and watching out for anyone who might attack. Jacob set up a string and tin can alarm system around the island to rattle if anyone got near. Meanwhile, Sarah and the couple stayed below. They avoided Maxine and Jacob like the plague. Maxine knew they were conspiring, but Sarah wouldn't talk to her. During the quiet hours, Maxine wept, thinking of her son. She held on to the hope that he was still alive. On the third night, Jacob invited Maxine outside. He grilled fresh squirrel over the fire pit. 2 chairs were set out. "I'll go get more," Maxine said.
"Don't,"
Jacob said.
"The others are just going to sulk anyway. Why bother?"
"I want to make sure Sarah gets something to eat," Maxine replied.
"They have an entire bunker full of options. I'm sure they'll figure something out."
Maxine took a breath and sat down next to him. He served her a plate. Maxine coated it with seasoning and bit into it. A burst of steam escaped the golden-brown meat. It tasted a lot better than Maxine had anticipated. After days being out of captivity, her body had recovered, and her energy was back. Jacob leaned back in his chair and drank the beer.
"Look at 'em."
With his beer-holding hand, he gestured to the starry night. "It's pretty," Maxine said, though felt completely indifferent.
"Most nights, I come out here and think about how small we are,"
Jacob said.
"Our little planet, in the grand scheme of things, is almost insignificant."
"That's depressing," Maxine remarked, and sipped her own beer.
"Strangely enough, it makes me feel less lonely, knowing that all life is going through the same struggles across galaxies,"
Jacob replied. Maxine replied, "I'm sure there are a few planets that got it right."
"Maybe."
Jacob sipped his beer. Crickets chirped. Jacob said,
"I wonder how Roy is holding up."
Maxine felt a strange conviction in her heart.
"You miss him too, don't you?"
Jacob asked. "Yeah," Maxine admitted honestly. "But with him being in jail and me taking care of kids, it just wasn't going to work out."
"You're lucky to have shared that connection with him. no matter how brief. I never really met someone who I'd want to settle down with."
"I'm sure you've had a few ladies," Maxine said.
"Every once in a while, I meet someone, but never felt the spark."
Jacob tapped his finger on his beer bottle as a look of concentration appeared on his face.
"All things considered, it's probably better it didn't happen. I'm more focused."
Maxine replied, "Without my kids, I don't know how I would have gotten this far. To fight the way I've had for just myself? I don't know if I'd have the strength." Jacob nodded.
"I've been reading a few books about raising a child. Francis is going to need all the help he can get."
"Papa Jacob," Maxine joked. Jacob smiled nervously.
"Honestly, it scares the hell out of me."
"I thought nothing scared you," Maxine replied.
"Fear is just an emotion. Focus overcomes that. Raising a child, there are too many factors to keep track of. Not only do I have to tend to his needs, but I need to be mindful of my every action to raise him properly."
"You just have to love," Maxine said. "We're all still figuring out the rest."
"I know we'll make it through. I'll keep providing. You can nurture."
He smiled.
"We'll make a good team."
Maxine smiled falsely. She wondered if that was Jacob's way of flirting. The thought made her uneasy. The next morning, Maxine approached Jacob about returning to town.
"Why?"
he asked with one brow cocked. He sat behind the desk with a book. "Because Ike and Owen are still out there."
"If they're still alive, then they're resourceful."
"Then I'll go by myself." Jacob glared at her.
"That's not an option."
"I'm done waiting around," Maxine said. "Officer Granger and her crew are half-starved at this point. We've learned from our mistakes, and it's time to try again."
"I'm not leaving."
"That's why I said I'll go." Jacob stood up.
"You'll just draw them back to us."
"Then I'll make sure to cover my tracks."
"We have everything we need to survive through this blackout. If you leave, you'll only muck it all up,"
Jacob replied. "I can make my own choices." Jacob rose from his chair. There was anger in his eyes.
"As long as you're in my house, you follow my rules."
"When was that ever agreed upon?"
"The moment you partook of my supplies,"
Jacob answered. Maxine glared at him. "Jacob, we can't just rot here while our family suffers. I'm just asking for 12 hours.
"You'll get none,"
Jacob said sternly. Maxine shook her head and scoffed. "You're unbelievable." She walked out of her room. Jacob shouted,
"If you leave, there will be consequences. Not just for you, but for Sarah, too."
Maxine twisted back, her face red with rage. "Don't you drag her into this." Jacob glared at her. There was something dark in his eyes. Maxine was scared. She headed down to the bunker, pondering if she wanted to get on Jacob's bad side. Before she could come to an answer, Sarah, Lily, and Francis flanked her. Lily asked, "Is Jacob coming down?" Maxine shook her head. Lily said, "Let me see your hand." "What's going on?" Maxine asked. Lily said, "Please." Suspicious, Maxine extended her hand. Lily took it in her own soft, supple palms. She looked Maxine in the eyes.
"I want to thank you for all you've done."
"I'm just trying to survive," Maxine admitted. Lily kept hold of her hand.
"I'm serious, Maxine. You've done a lot for us."
"Thanks. But you're leaving," Maxine answered. Lily nodded and drew back her hand. Francis put an arm around her and glanced up at the bunker ladder.
"We think it's time we take our chances out on our own,"
Lily said.
"We know it will be hard, but to live with Jacob, I just don't feel safe anymore."
"What did he do?" Maxine asked.
"Apart from killing people and stringing up their cadavers?" Francis asked sarcastically. "He's a monster, Maxine, and he's only going to get worse. My dad was the same way. You give them an inch, and they take a mile. Zero chill, man."
Sarah said meekly,
"I want to leave too, Mom."
"Do you have a plan as to where you go?" Maxine asked.
"The Florida Keys,"
Lily said.
"There might be boats,"
Francis replied. "That's a huge risk," Maxine said. Lily said,
"There's a good chance the EMP never hit Cuba."
"After the hurricane, they'll have their own problems," Maxine said.
"Yeah, but at least they have a government,"
Francis said. Maxine asked Sarah, "Is this really what you want?"
"I want to find Ike,"
Sarah said.
"This is our only chance for that."
Maxine cracked a smile. "You really are my daughter."
"Does that mean we can leave?"
Maxine glanced around the food shelves and the shower. "We won't know how lucky we've been until we're gone."
"But if it means saving Ike, it'll be worth it,"
Sarah said. Maxine tugged at her lip with her teeth. She thought for a moment. "We'll have to be smart how we do this." Sarah's face lit up.
"Does that mean you're okay with this?"
"Don't ask me that. Just pack lightly but discreetly, and we can leave first light." Lily and Francis smiled at one another. Sarah hugged Maxine.
"Thank you."
"We're going to get Ike back," Maxine said. They searched through the supply closet, finding a large travel sack. Sarah watched the latter while the rest of them packed up 10 days' worth of food and water, along with a set of spare clothes and all the socks and underwear they could find. Maxine packed away one of the dead man's pistols. The rest were in Jacob's room. She left the guns, but extracted the ammo from magazines. She was wise about how much supplies she took and grabbed them from the back rows. Jacob wouldn't know that the cans and water were missing until they were gone. Maxine felt her heart racing with fear and purpose. She knew Jacob wouldn't take her back in. It would be the final decision. That night, they all ate with Jacob. No one talked. Sarah shot glances Maxine's way. Maxine didn't respond. Tricking Jacob wouldn't be easy. Maxine asked, "See any footsteps out there today?" Jacob grunted.
"No."
"That's good," Maxine said. Jacob nodded. After helping Jacob, Maxine headed to bed early. Lily, Francis, Sarah, and Maxine got up before daybreak. They lit a lantern and navigated the bunker. Francis carried the duffel bag. Maxine allowed them to climb the ladder first. She kept an eye on the dark hallway. Jacob never showed. She climbed up and headed to the garage to grab the canoes or kayaks, whichever was easiest. There were neither. They checked out front and around the shed to the back. All of the canoes and kayaks were gone. Unless they planned on swimming back, they were trapped. Chapter 23. Night Fire. Only illuminated by their lanterns, Maxine and the others stood in their room and spoke with a hushed voice.
"He hid them,"
Frances said. Lily said,
"I really hate this guy."
"Chill out," Maxine replied. "We need to think about this." Sarah glanced around nervously.
"What if he finds out we took his stuff?"
It was a chilling thought. Frances turned to Maxine.
"You're the only one that can fix this."
Maxine said, "Thanks. But how?"
"He likes you,"
Lily said, hinting at something. Maxine shook her head and said defiantly, "I'm not doing that."
"Even if it means saving your son?"
Frances asked. "That's not fair," Maxine bit back.
"It's the truth,"
Lily pleaded.
"Please, Maxine."
"I've crossed a lot of lines and done some questionable things, but this is my brother-in-law we're talking about," Maxine said. Frances said,
"All you need to learn is where he hid the boats. He's a lonely man. It shouldn't be hard to get the answer out of him."
"For Ike,"
Lily said.
"For Ike,"
Frances agreed. Sarah didn't say anything. Maxine frowned. The idea sickened her. Frances said,
"Time is of the essence."
"Just invite him out to dinner,"
Lily added. Maxine shut her eyes. She imagined the honeymoon with Owen. She imagined spending time with her son. She thought about the family they could have had. Tearing out her soul, Maxine made her decision. Jacob left early in the morning. Maxine followed him. Jacob walked to the edge of the island and scanned the swamp with his binoculars. Maxine approached him from behind. "Morning." He didn't lower his binoculars.
"Did you sleep well?"
"Not really," Maxine replied. "See anything?"
"It has been quiet,"
Jacob said.
"but I know something is coming."
Maxine's heart rate quickened. In what way?
The homesteaders would know their allies are dead. Yet they've not sent any scouts to follow up. It's not normal,"
Jacob said. "You scared them off," Maxine said.
"Maybe."
Jacob lowered the binoculars.
"I want you to be extra alert today."
"Good thinking," Maxine replied. Jacob nodded and started back inside. "Hey," Maxine called out. He glanced back.
"No, you can't go out there."
"I wasn't going to ask," Maxine said. Oh, never mind." Maxine started back inside.
"You can say it,"
Jacob replied. Maxine sighed. "I just wanted to apologize for the way I acted."
"Accepted,"
Jacob replied.
"We're all under a lot of stress."
"That doesn't excuse my rudeness. Let me cook tonight. Does that sound like good penance?"
"You're going to have to talk to the vegans,"
Jacob replied.
"They're picky."
"Let them fend for themselves," Maxine said. Jacob chuckled.
"Fair enough."
"Awesome. Is it all right if I take from the supply hatch?"
"Use whatever you need,"
Jacob said. "Thanks, Jacob," Maxine said. Jacob nodded. He walked away, smiling to himself. Maxine updated the others. They spent the rest of the day staying out of sight and out of mind. As Maxine watched over the house and swamp, her conscience weighed heavy on her. For Ike, she justified. It was a weak excuse. She held fast to the conviction that he was alive and could still be found. Why he had not attempted to return, she knew not. Owen and Chase could watch over him, but even without the truck, Maxine had to believe that they would have returned to her. Maxine focused on her mission. Get off the island. Her safety and comfort would soon be gone. She needed to be ready for the changes. Watching after Lily would spark a million more problems. Francis's hands were almost healed. He might actually be useful in the next few days. Until then, Maxine would carry the weight. She'd want to make sure Sarah shouldered the responsibility of keeping the group's morale up. As a class favorite and friend of the couple, it should fit right into her realm of expertise. As the sun fell, Jacob relieved Maxine from her post. She walked the shelves in the bunker, eyeing a half-century's worth of canned foods. The strange revelation that people had died for what was in this room caused her to take pause. She lowered her head, feeling a migraine pushing into her skull. Her eyes shut. Flashes of gore echoed in the front of her mind. She winced, thinking of how Sergeant Granger beat Nathan in front of her. Guilt and shame darkened her heart. Every day her eyes grew darker and her skin paler. The life seemed to be leaking out of her body with every evil deed. She grew ill thinking of herself. She used to help people, care for them. That seemed like a distant memory. Her life was pure survival. Though with family, misery and loneliness were her company. She told herself that everything would change when power returned. She told herself it was only for a season. It was all pretty little lies. She wasn't fooling anyone. Like Jacob, she'd kill to stay alive. She'd fight endlessly and sacrifice herself for her missing son and distant daughter. But she feared her work would only leave bitterness in their mouths. She felt the same way with her own parents. Because they were murdered when she was 12, she hurt, knowing that she needed them to be her light in this dark world. She knew that they had no choice in their death. But to put aside Maxine's feelings regarding their post-mortem negligence would be disingenuous to herself. Maxine lifted her head. She continued her patrol through the shelves, finding the canned soups and dried seasoning she needed. She headed to the stove and began to prepare. After finishing everything, she kept the stew hot and headed to the shower. She cleaned herself and fixed her hair, using small scissors to trim her bangs. None of the girls had makeup. She'd have to rely on her natural beauty. She looked herself in the mirror one last time. Sickened by her actions, she walked into the kitchen, moved the stew into the pot, put it into a basket, and climbed the ladder. She headed to the second-story balcony and set the stew on a small table between the two chairs. Maxine brought out spools, bowls, and a ladle. They'd serve themselves right from the same pot as a way to show their intimacy. Learn where he puts the boats, that's it. She did not need to go any further than that. Once she knew how to escape, she could go early in the morning. With everything set, she wiped her sweaty palms on her thighs and walked to the top of the stairs. "Jacob!" He walked in through the back door, holding his rifle in hand. There was a tense look on his face. Maxine asked, "What happened?"
"It's nothing," Jacob said. I just have this feeling.
I'm sure it will go away once you eat something. Maxine gestured for him to follow. Jacob slung the rifle strap over his shoulder and hiked the steps. He stepped through the open bedroom door, noticing the made bed and fluffed pillows. He eyed them as he walked out of the French doors. Maxine held her hands on the railing and looked up at the hazy room. Like pinholes, starlight sparkled through the thin clouds.
"Just us?"
Jacob asked. "As promised," Maxine replied. Jacob joined her by the railing.
"Full moon."
"It's the first one I've seen since Miami. It's hard to believe that it's been over a month," Maxine said.
"Time moves slower out here."
Jacob glanced over to her.
"You look nice."
Maxine tucked her hair behind her ear. "Thanks. I wanted to feel like a woman again."
"Women are meant to be strong. They have been for thousands of years. There's no shame in getting your hands a little dirty,"
Jacob said. "What's your type of woman?" Maxine asked. Jacob groaned.
"I don't like that question."
"Come on, I won't tell," Maxine teased. Jacob lifted the lid off the pot of stew. Steam busted over his long beard. Like marble, gray streaked his facial hair. Maxine put a hand on her lip, waiting for his reply.
"A partner,"
Jacob finally answered.
"I'm not a godly man, but something about having a helpmate like Eve always appealed to me. She was a woman that could look after her own, tend to animals, and ruled the garden beside Adam, not below him."
"Eve was easily deceived," Maxine said.
"She was just curious, and got the best of her."
Jacob lifted the ladle and filled his soup bowl. Maxine got a bowl of her own. They slouched back in their chairs. Jacob took a deep breath and smelled the hearty aroma of the soup.
"That's better."
Maxine blew on a spoonful and ate it. She cursed.
"What?"
Jacob asked. "I forgot to grab the drinks for us." Jacob pushed against the handrails, lifting out of the chair. "No, you stay put," Maxine said. "I'll get them."
"There's some in the cooling unit in the bunker,"
Jacob shouted to her as she hurried into the house. Maxine climbed down into the bunker. Sarah and Lily were there. Maxine quickly commanded them, "Find me scotch or whiskey, anything strong." They rummaged through the storage. "There's wine over here," Sarah exclaimed. Maxine took it from her. "Perfect. Listen up. If I learn about the canoes tonight, I need all of you to be ready to leave the moment I get you."
"We will be,"
Lily said firmly. She winced. "What?" Maxine asked.
"Just a cramp. It's nothing,"
Lily replied. She waddled back to her room. Wine bottle in hand, Maxine returned upstairs. She snatched glasses from the kitchen cupboard and returned to Jacob. "Sorry about the wait," Maxine said, hurrying outside. Jacob's soup bowl sat untouched in his lap. "Everything okay?" Maxine asked.
"Just waiting for you,"
Jacob replied. "Oh," Maxine said, surprised. "Thank you." She took a seat. "I hope you don't mind if I open this. I have always been more of a wine drinker."
"If that's what you want, go right ahead. You got a corkscrew?"
Maxine rubbed her brow. "No, Jacob pulled out his multi-tool and used the corkscrew on there. "Handy," Maxine remarked.
It's always good to be prepared.
Jacob filled the glasses halfway, handing one to Maxine. She savored the smell for a moment before taking a sip. Though cheaper than the brand Owen used to buy, the rich flavor overwhelmed Maxine's expectations. She imagined it would be the first of many glasses this evening. The gentle night breeze brushed over them. Maxine crossed her arms, keeping herself warm. They were in the autumn months now, and things would start to get pretty nippy, even down in South Florida. The warm stew went down like fire in her belly. The red wine accented the hearty taste. Maxine drank down her glass quickly and poured another, keeping her mind fixed on the goal. Jacob remarked,
You keep drinking like that, and we'll run out of supplies.
Maxine's eyes twinkled. I just wanted to live a little.
Understandable. But be smart about it,
Jacob lectured, not rudely, but with the tone of a mentor. Sorry, Maxine said, feigning embarrassment.
It's okay. You're learning.
Jacob chugged down his wine. Maxine chuckled. Is this where you say, do as I say, not as I do? Jacob poured another glass.
No. But I agree we need to let loose. Stress is high. When the baby comes, it's only going to get worse. I want to make sure everyone's happy and productive.
Which is more important to you? Maxine asked.
Happiness.
Maxine failed to hide her surprise. A small grin teased Jacob's mustache.
Life without it is hardly a life.
You're happy like this?
Why wouldn't I be? No taxes. That's a big one. No dead-end job. Complete freedom to become someone.
I guess I never thought of it that way, Maxine replied.
Conveniences and easy pleasures have made us ungrateful.
Jacob sipped his wine. He looked at the glass. The candle's amber glow reflected in the deep crimson.
True contentment comes from responsibly and conquest.
I don't know if I agree with you, Maxine challenged him. I miss my cool house and dishwasher.
That's because you've conditioned yourself to find happiness in those things. Assess and realign your expectations, and you'll find greater joy. Like out here. The birds and fish aren't unhappy with the little they have. I believe they enjoy every moment.
Even when they're being hunted? Maxine asked.
The hunt reminds them to enjoy the moment even more. Knowing any day could be your last, you want to make the most of it.
Jacob replied. Maxine pondered his words, seeing some truth in them.
My life is simple, Jacob said. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy myself. I thought the hippies down below would have the same outlook, but they are too disturbed by reality to enjoy their freedom.
Maxine replied, In their defense, you did do some pretty ballsy things none of us were expecting. Jacob shook his head.
It all comes down to expectation. They thought we'd all be kumbaya-ing around the fire the moment that hatch opened. In reality, it only painted a huge target on our heads. People want in. They need to know it will cost them. If they persist, they'll learn it will cost them everything.
Maxine chewed on her lip.
Does that scare you?
Jacob asked. Yeah, Maxine admitted. Jacob patted her on the shoulder.
Good. You'll learn to enjoy the thrill. Like a panther on the tree, you'll live for the hunt.
That's not who I am, Maxine said.
You're wrong,
Jacob replied seriously.
When you were with Roy, I didn't see it in you, but I do now. You're a true survivor. And as you hone that skill, you will fall in love with it. I have.
Maxine shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She sipped her wine with a frown plastered on her face. She remembered shooting the insurgent in Miami, and again killing the stranger in the house. These things would haunt her, possibly for the rest of her days. How can any happiness come from it? How can anything good come at all? It depends on your expectation of good, an internal voice told her, sounding like Jacob. A pit formed in her stomach.
You finished?
Jacob asked. Too caught up in her thoughts, Maxine didn't reply. Jacob forced himself to stand. He grabbed his and her bowls and started to head inside. Maxine quickly twisted back. Hey! He stopped in the threshold of the balcony. Thank you, Maxine said, for everything you do. The others may not acknowledge you, but I do. And I know you've sacrificed a lot to keep us safe. So yeah. Thank you. Gosh, I'm awkward. Jacob smiled slightly. He glanced up at the stars. He looked back at her and said,
It's endearing.
Max took the wine bottle and rose from her chair. She followed him inside. Before Jacob reached the end of the room, Maxine called out, Oh, could you get me a jacket before you go? Jacob placed the bowls on the nightstand and opened the closet door. He sifted through a few blazers and sports coats before getting a thin hoodie.
Will this work?
He turned back. Maxine stood inches from him, her face red and tipsy. Jacob stumbled back, almost falling into the closet. He wore an awkward smile.
Excuse me,
he said, looking for a way past her. Maxine stepped in close. She smelled the wine on his breath. Jacob moved back, his back knocking against the coats.
Max.
I want to thank you, Maxine said softly. Will you let me? Jacob tensed up. He boxed his shoulders and struggled to find a response. Maxine took his hand in her own. She brushed her thumb over the top of his hand. I've been lonely for a long time, Jacob. Jacob stared, wide-eyed. Maxine pressed her torso against his and spoke to him from inches apart. Let's throw aside our expectations and live a little. Maxine went in for a kiss. Jacob said softly,
You're not getting a canoe.
As if pulling a needle from a record disc, Maxine asked, What?
Doing this.
He bounced his gaze up and down her.
It won't get you what you want. I'm the only one allowed out. I'm the only one capable of surviving alone. In a few years, you will be too. Red with rage, Maxine backed away from him. She twisted around and rubbed her hand up her scalp.
Her pulse pounded with anger and rage and fear. The wine bottle flipped from her hand and thumped on the ground. Wine sloshed out across the floor. Behind her, Jacob said,
"Divorced or not, I'm not going to sleep with my brother's wife. I'm not an animal."
Maxine grabbed a fistful of her hair. She wanted to yank it out. Instead, she chose to sink to the couch. Her mind, her emotions, and her anger all turned into numbness.
"Good effort," Jacob said. "It takes bold choices like that to overcome your enemies. Too bad I'm not one of them."
Maxine buried her face in her palms. She sensed Jacob standing in front of her.
"One day, I'll let you have voting privileges. It was going to be in 2 weeks. I'm going to have to extend that until I can trust you. Trust is not easily mended, but I'll always have a soft spot for you."
Maxine lifted her head out of her palms. Her face was dreadful and mad. "Then let me leave."
"Ike is gone, Maxine,"
Jacob said plainly.
"It's about time you accepted that truth and focus on what you have in front of you. At least you got a chance to tell him goodbye. Not everyone is that lucky."
Maxine's heart sank, and all her hope with it. She noticed something flicker through the open balcony door. Jacob saw it too. Perhaps some god answered her silent prayer. Perhaps it was Ike's lantern coming. Jacob rushed to the balcony. Maxine interrupted her sulking to run after him. They stopped at the railing. Jacob's jaw fell open. The blazing inferno reflected in his mossy green eyes. Like a wall of fire from the deepest hell, a crescent-shaped flame burned across the front of the end of the swamp. Birds and bats scattered across the sky. The fire billowed and puffed with blooms of smoke. Maxine listened to the wood snap and crackle before splashing into the black water. Fear gripped her heart. Her hands squeezed the railing. "What the hell is happening?"
"Natural fires don't spread that fast,"
Jacob replied. It seemed like the fire was crawling towards them. Jacob picked up his rifle. He popped the cap off the scope and rested the barrel of the gun on the railing. He aimed, keeping one eye shut. The rifle moved side to side as he observed the flame.
"There."
He pointed, still aiming. Maxine tracked his finger to a small breach where the fire ran between 2 burning islands.
"There's another one,"
Jacob said. Maxine glanced over, finding a second riverway opposite the first. One was northwest, and the other was northeast.
"They'll come through that way,"
Jacob set his jaw.
"We should have been on the lookout."
Maxine backed away from the railing. She twisted around and ran for the stairs. Her shoes clacked on the steps as she hurried to the first floor. On her way to the bunker, she noticed more flickering lights through the boarded back windows. She slowed down and headed to them. Peeking through an inch-wide gap between 2 wooden slats, she noticed a second towering flame roughly 300 feet from Jacob's island. "Jacob!" she called out. Not getting a quick reply, Maxine double-checked the lock on the back door. She shoved a chair underneath the handle and did the same for the front door. Looking at the upstairs and the hatch, she shouted, "Jacob!" His boots thumped above her. He appeared at the top of the steps, shrouded in shadow. Maxine pointed to the back door. "There's another fire!" Jacob growled.
"My swamp!"
Tension raised Maxine's voice. "We need to get into the bunker."
We take a stand here," Jacob commanded. "Tell those wussies downstairs to get up here. Now." Shaken by Jacob's command, Maxine rushed to the bunker ladder. She moved down quickly and saw Francis, Lily, and Sarah chatting on the couch. Maxine hiked her thumb to the ladder. "Up, now!"
"Did you get the boats?"
"Forget the boats!" Maxine roared. "Go up, now!" Sarah headed for the hall.
I'll get the bag.
"No, you won't!" Maxine commanded. "Up, up, up!" Confused and scared, Francis led Lily to the ladder. He stayed behind her, helping her slowly climb. Her belly brushed against the rung, making it a slow journey. Maxine ran by her daughter. She pushed into their bedroom. Illuminated by the lanterns in the hall, she popped open a lockbox and pulled out her pistol. She headed to the duffel the vegans hid behind one of the beds and removed the ammo magazines. Holding them in the bottom of her shirt and keeping that up with her teeth, she rushed up the ladder. She found everyone in the living room. Francis and Sarah watched the fire burning through the windows. Lily sat on the recliner, taking deep breaths. A dot of sweat spotted her forehead and upper lip. She held her belly. Jacob stood by the stairs, rifle in hand. Fear in his eyes, he watched the pregnant woman. Maxine let go of her shirt on top of the coffee table. Bullets and magazines clacked on the wooden top and rolled off on the floor. Maxine pulled the pistol out of the back lip of her pants and cocked it. "Now what?" she asked Jacob. Francis shouted, "We leave, man!"
"Shut up,"
Jacob said. Francis replied,
"Screw you! I'm not fighting your battles."
Jacob replied,
"I will shoot you if you run."
He scanned the rest of them.
"This is war now. Any deserters will be shot."
Lily winced.
Ow!
"Sarah, look after her," Maxine commanded. Terrified, the pretty 14-year-old went to the woman's aid. She knelt down in front of her.
It's okay.
"You're okay."
I'm not,
Lily said, and cried out in pain.
God, I'm sick of these cramps.
"What's the play, Jacob?" Maxine asked.
"They'll come by boat,"
Jacob replied.
"We'll have to stop them before they reach land."
Francis twisted back, opening and closing his bandaged fingers.
"They? Homesteaders."
Jacob rushed down into the bunker. A look of confusion overtook Francis's face. Maxine replied, "Sergeant Granger from the Homestead Police Department runs the town. It was because of her I was locked up for a few days."
"We're killing cops now? What's next? Nuns?"
Francis complained. "They're after the food," Maxine replied. Lily winced.
We have our supply bag. Let's just go.
"Like you could swim," Maxine barked back.
"We'll die if we stay here,"
Francis said grimly. He hurried to Lily.
"We're going, baby. Jacob can shove it. Help me get her up."
Sarah put an arm around Lily and helped her stand. They hurried for the back door. Jacob emerged from the hatch. A large duffel was on his back. He held it up. Francis reached for the chair barring the doorknob. Jacob called his name.
"I can't fight your war, bro. I have my companion to look after."
Jacob let the sack slip from his shoulder. It clunked on the ground.
"You fight, and I'll let you leave. I swear on it."
Maxine tugged at Francis's arm. "Even if you escape the fire, you won't outrun Granger. She'll kill anyone that gets in the way of her supplies." Francis shot a nasty glance at Jacob.
"Sounds familiar."
"Please, Francis," Maxine begged. "We just need to scare them off." Tears wetted Sarah's eyes.
We can't just forget about Ike.
"He's gone, Sarah," Maxine replied, hating every word. "We have to accept that." Sarah's lip quivered. Maxine's expression hardened. She glanced over her shoulder and gave Jacob a curt nod. He nodded back. With a satisfying zzz sound, he unzipped the duffel, revealing a variety of rifles. He lifted one out, quickly checked over it, and extended it with his hand.
Rifles for long range. Pistols if they make it to the island.
Maxine grabbed one and put it in Sarah's palms. Sarah looked over the rifle, unsure what to do with it. Maxine told Sarah, "Remember what Jacob showed you. Shoot to kill." A tear trickled down her rosy cheek. Maxine hurried back and got 2 more rifles for Francis and Lily. They backed away from the door.
You better be sure about this, bro.
Francis ripped the bandage off his trigger finger. He tossed the burgundy-stained husk aside. Jacob replied,
Nothing is certain at this point. But if you want to keep that infant alive, you're going to need to fight.
Francis eyed Lily's belly. He straightened his posture and got used to the gun against his shoulder. When everyone had both a rifle and pistol, they split up across the house and used whatever they could to further board the windows. Jacob and Francis turned the couch on the side and slid it in front of the front windows. They used whatever else they could to keep the rest secure. After barricading, Jacob split them up. Jacob and Maxine went to the balcony. Lily, Sarah, and Francis guarded the downstairs and back door. Crawling on their bellies, Maxine and Jacob snaked their way up to the railing and aimed at the 2 choke points. The fire roared, spreading through the swamp. Perspiration rolled down the side of Maxine's nose. She kept the rifle firmly placed against her shoulder. Her finger rested just above the trigger. She tried to get used to the scope. She watched the northwest side, but also kept an eye out on the islands surrounding it. Time ticked. Maxine sniffled. Wine left her face red. She blinked, keeping herself from getting tunnel vision. Apart from the fire, there was no light in the house around the swamp. Smoke created a black smoke in the sky, killing most of her view of the sky. 300 feet away, a small canoe floated around the bend of an island at the Northwest Passage. Maxine's finger slid over the trigger. The darkness prevented her from making out the person seated on the bench. He wasn't rowing. Maxine noticed a pointed shape in her arm. Her instinct was a gun. If it was, he must be aiming at her. Maxine exhaled, aimed for the figure's shadowy chest, and put her finger over the trigger. She tried to pull, but her finger wouldn't obey. The boat slid across the water. Jacob said,
There's one on my side.
Bam. He took the shot. A hot shell casing ejected from the side of his rifle and rolled across the balcony. Maxine set her jaw, aimed, and shot the faceless intruder. He stayed upright. Maxine cocked back the slide and shot him again. The man didn't slouch. He drifted near. Through the scope, Maxine saw that he was a dressed mannequin, wearing a mask and holding a toy rifle duct-taped to his hands.
Decoys,
Jacob grunted. That means... Gunfire downstairs interrupted Maxine. She went to stand.
You stay,
Jacob commanded. He grabbed his rifle and hurried inside. More gunshots sounded below her. Her heart pounded. She moved toward the front middle of the balcony, gaining eyes on both choke points. She saw movement through the unburning island. A group of 3 people rushed out of the woods, holding an inflatable raft above their head. They tossed it into the water and climbed inside. When they got settled, Maxine shot a hole in the raft. The 3 of them dove into the water as the raft sank. On the other side, another 3 tried lowering into the water. Maxine aimed at one of their legs, steeled her heart, and pulled the trigger. The bullet bucked his knee backwards. He fell into the water, screaming. One of his friends ran back into the woods. The other jumped into the water to help him. The 3 men from the first climbed back to the island. Imagining that these men killed her son, Maxine shot one of them in the back. The others blindly fired their pistols back. A few bullets pelted the house's broadside. Maxine spotted 2 more rafts rowing swiftly down the river. Their gunmen fired their weapons at the balcony. Maxine ducked her head. Bullets blew chunks out of the railing. Others zipped overhead, hitting the window. Maxine crawled to a new position, feeling the bullets zip over her head. She fired at the raft. Missed. She tried again, hitting someone inside but not puncturing the balloon. Maxine aimed and fired. No bullets came out. She was empty. Maxine patted down her pockets. In her haste, she'd forgotten to grab extra ammo. The rafts were 200 feet away. The man that was shot in the leg was being pulled out of the water. A few of the people from the first raft dove back into the water to swim over. There were 8 people in total. Maxine lowered her rifle and pulled out her pistol. Without the scope and very little light, shooting at the raft wasn't easy. She took a few pot shots. It took 3 before the first raft took a hit. She turned her attention to the second raft. The riders shot back. A bullet hit the vertical railing bar next to Maxine's face. Splinters hit her cheek. Maxine crawled backward. More bullets zipped overhead. She attempted to aim again, but the suppressive fire prevented her. She kept backing up until her foot hit the cracked door. Leaving the rifle, Maxine rushed to her knees, crawled inside, and shut the door. Bullets thumped against the door. A few penetrated the wood. They must have been a revolver or rifle rounds. Maxine crawled across the bedroom floor. Her shoulder knocked against a side table, spilling over the glass bowls. She reached the hallway. "Jacob! I need assistance on the front side!" Gunfire sounded on the floor below her. Jacob ran out. "What?" "Front side!" Maxine got up and hurried down the steps. Jacob ran to the front window. He moved aside a standing cabinet and eyed the outside world. Grumbling, he pulled out his rifle and started shooting, busting the glass. Maxine looked down the long hall, seeing Sarah, Lily, and Ike shooting out of different windows. Maxine joined Jacob. She watched as the first person made landfall. Jacob shot him in the head. More shooters fired at Jacob from their rafts. Some of them touched down at the side of the house. Others laid down suppressing fire, blasting holes in the wooden window guards.
"There's too many of them,"
Francis yelled from the other side of the house. Jacob fired his weapon. His rifle jammed. He cursed and tossed it aside. He pulled out his pistol. Maxine heard glass break in the bathroom. She rushed that way. Behind the boards, she saw the shapes of a few people. They hit the wood with hatchets. Maxine stayed at the doorway, put both hands on her pistol, and emptied the magazine on the boarded window. A few men screamed and grunted. Maxine's ammo ran out. A shotgun barrel slipped through the wood. Maxine dived into the hall. Boom! A blast of scattershot hit the wall behind her. Boom! Boom! 2 blasts went overhead. Maxine crawled down the hallway. When the bathroom was behind her, she got to her feet. "Jacob, we can't hold them." Jacob ignored her and fired off another shot. Maxine ran and grabbed his shoulder. He turned to her, about to shoot. Maxine said firmly, "The bunker. It's the only way."
"I won't lose this house again."
"Then you'll die." Maxine didn't wait for his reply. She quickly ran to the rifle bag and dragged it to the coffee table. Using her forearm, she swept in the pistol ammo and zipped it up. "Sarah! Francis! Lily! Come on!" Maxine ran through the hallway and to the bunker. She heaved it open with one hand and tossed the bag down. Francis rushed Lily over there first. Maxine moved aside. "Get her down there." Francis held her as she slowly descended one rung at a time. Wood snapped in the bathroom. Maxine headed that way, seeing a person climbing inside. She slammed the door. A shotgun blew a hole through it. "Sarah! Jacob! Come on!" Maxine shouted. Jacob retreated into the hallway.
"They've surrounded the house."
"Then get inside!" Maxine shouted. Jacob rushed past her. He stopped next to the bathroom door and aimed his pistol through the shotgun hole and blindly fired inside. Muzzles flashed. A man grunted. There was a thump. Francis and Lily reached the bottom of the ladder. Maxine cried out, "Sarah, get over here!" Jacob charged at her. Maxine attempted to dodge but wasn't quick enough. His large hands hit her like a linebacker. She lost her footing and fell into the bunker. Her back landed on the bag of weapons. She gasped and rolled to her side. Pain exploded across her spine. She screamed silently. She heard Jacob's boots stomping on the ladder rungs. The hatch shut with a loud bang. Maxine rolled to her front and tried to push up. Her arms gave way. The pain in her back was too strong. Jacob leapt off the last two rungs, landing next to Maxine. Maxine raised herself up a few inches. She looked up at Jacob. "Sarah!" Jacob loomed over her. Dread sank Maxine's face. "No! No!" She pushed past the pain and got to her feet. Spots floated in her vision. She grimaced. Every movement strained her back. Jacob blocked the ladder with his large body. "Move!" Maxine seethed. Jacob stood still. "Move!" Maxine punched him across the jaw. Jacob recoiled. Maxine barreled past him. He grabbed her around the waist. "No!" she shrieked, reaching for the ladder rung. "Let me go! Let me go!" Jacob squeezed her tighter.
"We can't help her."
"You're wrong."
"They're already inside,"
Jacob said. Maxine punched, kicked, and fought with everything she had. Jacob didn't break his grip. Hatchets swung at the bunker's hatch. Bullets dented it from the other side. Sobbing, Maxine's energy depleted and her body deflated into Jacob's arms. "My Sarah! My Sarah!" she mumbled. Jacob carried her away from the hatch.
"They'll try to get in, but we'll be safe."
The ladder got farther and farther away. Maxine's vision darkened. Her eyes rolled into the back of her head. Darkness. Like a shot of adrenaline to her heart, Maxine jolted awake. Drenched in cold sweat, she looked around the dark bedroom. She breathed heavily. Her heart raced. Her eyes adjusted. The shapes of different coats materialized around her. She was in the bunker. Maxine lifted one leg out of bed. A sharp pain shot through her back. She winced. She felt the bruises pulsating all up and down her back. She lowered the other foot and stood. Darkness flooded the sides of her vision. Her head became light. She kept her eyes open, trying her best not to pass out. Successful, she stood. Hunched, she walked to the door. She looked down the hallway. The couch, table, and various lampstands were piled in front of the ladder. Waist-sized furniture formed cover at various points in the hallway. Putting one hand on the wall, Maxine walked lopsided to the main room. Jacob, Lily, and Francis sat on the floor, counting bullets and cleaning disassembled guns.
"Like this,"
Jacob held up the rifle slide and polished it with a greasy, stained cloth. Francis mimicked his actions. Lily worked slowly, with her head down. Footsteps sounded up above. They all glanced up for a second before returning to work. Someone hammered on the bunker. The noise echoed through the hallway. Francis was the first to notice Maxine approaching. She slowly lowered herself to the cold, hard floor. Jacob didn't speak to her. Looking haggard, Lily put a hand on Maxine's thigh. She smiled sadly. Maxine felt tears coming. She didn't try to stop them. Her head rested on Lily's shoulder as dry, soundless screams escaped her throat. Her heart had been torn out. Two days they listened to the strangers banging on the bunker. While everyone else got ready for the impending assault, Maxine stayed in bed. Her hollow eyes stared at the ceiling. Darkness filled the room. Her drive to move, to eat, to do anything, was gone. Her life meant nothing. All she had of her children now were memories, and even those wilted quickly. Jacob walked in one day. He stood beside her bed. Maxine didn't react to his presence.
"Gather your strength,"
he said softly.
"We're going to need it when Lily has her baby. It'll be soon."
Jacob lingered. Getting no response from Maxine, he left. Minutes, hours, days. Time meant nothing. She heard gunfire and loud footsteps on the ceiling above her. Perhaps Granger's men were killing each other. It didn't matter. After 45 minutes, the noise went away.
Boom!
A loud explosion shook Maxine back to life. The bedroom door flung open. Francis shouted, "They've breached the bunker!" The thought of Lily's unborn child was all that made Maxine rise from her bed. She hurried out into the hallway. Jacob, Lily, and Francis hunched behind various nightstands and dressers, forming a barricade at the hall's entrance. A hazy cloud of smoke and soot masked the latter. Maxine knelt next to Lily. She handed Maxine a pistol and aimed at the smoke screen. Tense silence owned the room. A man's voice shouted, "Anyone down there?" Maxine and Jacob traded looks. "Don't shoot, okay? I'm coming down." Boots clunked on the rungs. Jacob kept his finger aimed at the trigger. The barricade in front of the ladder shook. A chair was pushed over. "You promise you won't shoot, right?" the man said. He mumbled to himself as he crawled over the barricade and exited the smoke screen. Wearing a leather jacket, torn jeans, army boots, and wielding a shotgun, the 40-year-old man stood before them. His head was shaved bald. An untrimmed auburn beard painted his jaw. Little hairs from his mustache hung over his upper lips. His brown eyes scanned the bunker. "Jacob? You here, bro?" Maxine stood up. "Roy?" Her ex-husband cracked a smile. "Max? I didn't expect to see you here."